Being flirty. Someone wins every 20 seconds. Paddy Power Bingo.
Hey everyone, it's Phoebe. I hope you're all safe and well. Thank you for joining me on my live last night if you were able to. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, no, my channel is not monetized. I just found it a little ironic that one of the adverts on AD's video was a bingo advert, which is, you know, bingo is a form of gambling. And did you know, this is a fun fact, that bingo was originally called Beano because the players used to mark their cards with beans. They used to put a little bean on the numbers instead of crossing out. And somebody one night, they used to shout Beano if, you know, when they got their card full, and instead of shouting Beano one night, a random player shouted bingo by mistake, and so they decided to change the name from Beano to bingo. I just thought I'd let you know. Life will never be the same, would it, unless you knew where the name bingo came from. Okay, so let's get into today's video. Right, what is it about? It is really about, as the title suggests, AD versus DA Rourke. But once again, AD gets things terribly, terribly wrong because he misunderstands what DA Rourke is talking about. He completely gets it very, very wrong. And that then led the way for the rest of his rant almost being totally incorrect. Absolutely way off the scale incorrect. So I'm going to play you some clips. There is a little bit of repetition, I'm afraid. It's kind of how I've had to, you know, sort of put the video together. None of it is edited. As always, it's never edited to make it look like AD said something that he didn't, but there is a little bit of repetition. So please bear with me on that. And just take a little look at, keep an eye on AD's face, please, because you can tell, although he's got it wrong, he is reveling in the fact that he thinks that he has caught DA Rourke out. He is reveling in it. So just keep an eye on his facial expressions as we go through. Okay, so let's get on with it, guys.
There was no PSI done. There was no reports done between the time of his guilty plea and today's sentencing hearing. There was no PSI done. There was no reports done between the time of his guilt.
Right, okay, I found it. Listen to this, Mr. Rourke. Listen.
No. Well, there was no PSI done. There was no...
Right. No PFI done. From the moment the plea deal to today, there was no PFI done. From the moment the plea deal to today, there was no PFI done. There was no PFI done. All you need to know is what PFI is.
Now, I found this hilarious because he was on his high horse about there was no PFI done, but he doesn't even know the correct wording, and he doesn't even know what a PFI is. And it's not even a PFI, is it? I was just absolutely in fits of giggles over that.
There was no PFI done. All you need to know is what PFI is.
No. Well, there was no PSI done. There was no reports done between the time of his guilty plea and today's sentencing hearing. No.
We need to know, folks. There was no PSI? Is that what he said? Let's go that again. This is very important. We need to know what PSI is because there wasn't one done. This is the most important bit we've seen.
So he doesn't know what a PSI is, but he states it's the most important bit that we've seen. And we'll see in a moment how he knew that it was PSI and not PFI.
PSI, what is it? Police staff investigation. Police staff investigation.
Actually, that isn't quite as ludicrous as I first thought it might be, that suggestion, police staff investigation. Initially I thought, what? But they were all guessing in the live chat what they thought a PSI was. Somebody said pre-trial investigation. Really? So as you will hear, AD goes on and on and on about this PSI. So let's hear from DA Rourke what a PSI really is.
Oftentimes, even in Class 1 felonies, we ask that the probation department complete a pre-sentencing investigation report, as Mr. Wren said, because the Department of Corrections actually benefits from that information. It helps them in classifying offenders more quickly when they reach the regional diagnostic center. We ask that the probation department complete a pre-sentencing investigation report.
So a PSI is something completed by the probation team. A probation officer will conduct a PSI. It is a pre-sentencing investigation, but it is nothing to do with the police investigation, the CBI, FBI, Frederick Police. It's nothing to do with the actual investigation. It's also sometimes called a pre-sentencing report, a PSR, and it is just information, the history and the background of the offender.
No investigation. To my mind, I think PSI, pre-sentence investigation. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold it there, Trigger. I think he's just admitted, believe it or not, that they did no investigation from the minute he gave the plea deal. There is the hot spot, my friends.
He's totally wrong. And also, do you think that the DA would stand there so very confidently and admit to something like that if it was such a crucial, vital part of the police side of things? I don't think so. I'm not saying he wouldn't answer the question, but he wouldn't answer it in such a confident manner if they'd made such a big boo-boo, would he?
No pre-sentence investigation. That sums it up, doesn't it, really? So it stopped the clock. It stopped the clock the minute. Let's just get that one more time. Let's get that very clear, Mr. Rourke.
No. We're not going to be watching it again. No chance. So moving on, we're just going to watch where DA Rourke addresses Nicole Kessinger.
Other than that, I'm happy to take questions, obviously, from our perspective.
What's the first question going to be? NK.
Served this morning.
What's he got to say about NK?
So I just want you to hear the full statement from DA Rourke about Nicole Kessinger. I'm sorry again for the repetition, but I just think it's important you hear the full statement because later I'm going to be breaking it down.
She originally came forward and spoke to investigators on her own volition. Prior to the time, unfortunately, that she came in and spoke with investigators, she had deleted all of the information off of her phone that had any connection between her and Chris Watts. That hampered the investigation. That hampered our ability to get that electronic digital connection between the two. She was interviewed on multiple occasions. I believe that for the most part she was forthcoming in the course of those investigations. We don't have any reason to believe that she had any prior knowledge or involvement in the death of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I think that's the best way I can answer that.
Well, that's the best way you can answer that. Right. So they didn't do any investigation after the plea deal. Okay. She deleted her texts and it hampered the investigation, but only somewhat.
That hampered the investigation. That hampered our ability to get that electronic digital connection between the two.
It hampered the investigation somewhat. Well, why not make excuses for the woman? Hampered the investigation somewhat. She didn't do anything wrong besides hampering the investigation, but because it's only somewhat. Let's go that again, Mike. Let's go that again, NK.
No. Again, we're not going to listen to it for a second time. Why do you feel the need, AD, to tell everybody and show everybody things more than once? Do you think we're stupid?
We don't have any reason to believe that she had any prior knowledge or involvement in the death of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico.
And there's no reason to believe she had played any part. There's no frigging reason to believe she didn't play any part, because they did not investigate.
Oh, AD, will you stop going on about it? They did do their investigation, but you have no clue on what you're talking about.
We have no reason to believe she had any prior knowledge. How do they know? They didn't do an investigation.
She was interviewed on multiple occasions. I believe that for the most part, she was forthcoming in the course of those investigations.
She told the truth for the most part.
I believe that for the most part, she was forthcoming.
She told the truth for the most part.
It really irritates me when he very often puts words in other people's mouths. D.A. Rourke did not say that she wasn't truthful. He said he believed that she was forthcoming, and I looked up the definition of forthcoming. Yes, I know, I'm probably a little bit pernickety about these things, but there is a reason for this. I'll explain in a moment, but meanwhile I looked up in the Cambridge Dictionary the definition of forthcoming, and nowhere did it state that it meant truth. So it means friendly and helpful, willing to give information or to talk, supplied or offered when wanted, produced, supplied or given. And there is nowhere that it states that forthcoming is another word for being truthful. This is why I'm often saying how creators have to be responsible and sensitive in the words that they use, because it's very clear that AD's subs just believe him. Look, we've got here Ali79, she told the truth for the most part. Joe the cat, hampered somewhat. Are you kidding? So they obviously believe him. They don't think for themselves. So, Ali79, where did you hear the DA say that she told the truth for the most part? And Joe the cat, where did you hear the DA say that it hampered the investigation somewhat? Please, I'm really intrigued to know where you got that from. Why don't you think for yourselves? Why do you just believe every word that comes out of that man's mouth? Really? It does make me wonder, you know, guys.
So we didn't bother to investigate her. Damn it, why would we bother investigating her? Oh, she only hampered us somewhat.
We don't have any reason to believe that she had any prior knowledge or involvement.
Why are you swaying?
Of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico.
Hang on a minute. What's all this swaying? Is he swaying?
What do you want to make about that at this point?
Is he swaying now?
A whole host of reasons.
That's it, AD. Sit back and fold your arms. We all know what happened the last time you analysed somebody's body language. You crucified Shane Carey. You crucified that poor man. You had him guilty before proven innocent. And when you realised that you were wrong, you came out with a very half-hearted, insincere apology. I'll never forget that. Never. Okay, so moving on, he's still rambling on and on about the fact that he believes he's caught D.A. Rourke in a huge confession that they didn't do any investigation whatsoever, albeit after the plea deal, but that doesn't seem to make any difference to AD. Then there's a conspiracy theory before he moves on to what his solution is, what their plan of action is. So let's take a look.
Because, as you told us, you didn't investigate. You can't clear anyone, can you, Mr. Rourke? You can't clear anyone because you didn't investigate. So when I say it needs investigating, I'm right. Because you didn't investigate it, did you? How can I be wrong? Think about this, right? Armchair detective, conspiracy theorist. If they didn't investigate it, if they didn't do a crime scene...
Well, as we know, they did conduct a forensic crime scene analysis, didn't they? Crime scene analyst Dave Yoakum, as well as Matthew Saylor from the CBI. They used Blue Star, alternate light sources. You know, it was very thorough. I can't disclose the source. Oh, yes, I can. Sorry, it's the Discovery Files. Also, Mr. Frank Rusek phoned up because he wanted to know why the house was taped off, and that proves that they did cordon off the house. Read the Discovery Files, AD.
If they stop the clock, how am I wrong? How can I possibly be wrong to say there should be an investigation? I mean, like The most dumbest person in the school. The most dumbest person in the school can work out there has to be an investigation, otherwise it's not closed. That makes sense. Well, it was a clever cover-up. It was the worst piece of policing I've ever seen.
And you're an expert in police work, are you, AD? When did you gain all that knowledge and experience as a non-detective, as a non-investigator? Or was it when you worked for MI5? Could be. Okay, so moving on. Sorry, this is a long one today, guys, isn't it? So he's still going on and on about the fact that there wasn't an investigation and other things.
He just told you there's no investigation. Mr. Rourke knows there's no investigation.
He does. He said there was no PSI, which is where the probation officer conducts an interview with the offender, the murderer.
I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it. There's no proper investigation. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Worse than embarrassing. Yuck.
You're embarrassing yourself, AD. Yet on and on and on he goes.
Worse than that. No investigation done. No reports, he says. How do you know he wasn't lying? They should have done reports, and they should have confirmed it all with Chris afterwards. Not done. Illegal. To my eyes, illegal. If that ever comes to an appeal, he's in big trouble, Rourke. And that's why they want to shut me down.
Oh, AD, you think you know it all, don't you? Do you honestly think DA Rourke would make such a huge mistake?
Worse than that, he's rocking all over the place. He knows he's in trouble. Oh, Mr. Rourke. She came forward. Unfortunately, she happened to have deleted all the texts between her and Chris Watts. Because she said she was annoyed with him, but she didn't delete his phone number.
And that makes her a murderer or an accomplice to murder? Really? I was a little bit hesitant to include this part because AD is talking about Shanann's elevated blood alcohol level, but it just demonstrates how ridiculous his theory is and his insensitivity and his inability to seem to listen, because DA Rourke very clearly explained about that.
They have all indicated to us that that blood alcohol level is very, very consistent with normal human decomposition based upon the location and the manner that Shanann...
Right, was that high alcohol blood level, was that the chloroform I was on about, do you think? Do you think that's connected? Do you think that could be a connection? I don't know. Could be.
AD, if you don't know, then stop talking about it. It's very, very sensitive. You're wrong. DA Rourke explained it very, very clearly. You're wrong.
We have consulted with the Weld County Coroner's Office. We have conducted with the forensic experts at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. To a person, they have all indicated to us that that blood alcohol level is very, very consistent with normal human decomposition.
Sorry, I just needed to clarify that. I know it's not easy to listen to. Let's move on.
This is terrible, folks. I mean, it's like Keystone Cops don't come into it. Don't worry about the CSI, crime scene investigation. Don't worry about it. We didn't do it.
Yes, they did. And while I'm here, I just thought I would point out that there were lots of other people involved that we're not aware of. For example, FBI Special Agent Tori Smith. Now, I wonder whether AD knows who Tori Smith is. You know, because there was lots of people behind the scenes working very, very hard on this investigation. Very hard. How dare he call them Keystone Cops?
Okay, you will see under the this video, I want you to have a good read of it, that contact the Office of Colorado Attorney General. Let's get going on this.
Okay, so this angers me for many, many reasons. A, it's not a cover-up. Also, who does he think he is, asking his subscribers to write to the Attorney General? I mean, the letter that they wrote was absolutely ridiculous. It was embarrassing. So in a way, I hope that they did right, because it would just prove how ridiculous the whole thing is. It was pathetic. It really was, that letter. I'm not going to be showing you it in its full entirety. But these people high up in the, the state office, they are very, very busy people. They haven't got time to be dealing with thousands and thousands of emails, as AD would have us believe. They've got other things to be working on. So the time that they take, or well, I guess it would be their secretaries, but the time taken up dealing with these letters or these emails is taking them away from other important work. And that really, really aggravates me.
If you can't see a cover-up that's right in front of you, then maybe the Attorney General can. Colorado Attorney General. This is the Armchair Detective No Hiding Place channel. We believe there are many unanswered questions in the case. So we're the patron study group, and we're asking for investigations, if possible, accomplices. We're imploring you to take a second look at the case. We've studied the case, 60,000 study group on YouTube channel, for 2 years. We're also asking why the case is closed when CW confessed. Why?
Do you see how ridiculous it is? Asking why the case was closed when CW confessed. Do they really need to ask that question? I mean, it's laughable, isn't it? It's laughable, guys.
Please, can you take a second look at the details in the case? Why were there no dog alerts in the home? Why did it appear another person with a different gait walk out of the home that day? The case was closed when Mr. Watts confessed.
I mean, really? Really, guys? And this is a letter going to a state attorney general. How embarrassing.
But we believe there are many unanswered questions. Thank you.
So that's that for the letter, but he's still going on and on and on. A bit like me.
It's not good enough to say we believe she played no part in this, because, as you told us, you didn't investigate. I rest my case. I do too many hours. It stresses me out. I get stressed, I get emotionally involved.
So yes, AD now calls himself an investigator. He says that he's employed by himself and by his Patreons. And it does worry me, what would happen if one of his viewers, excuse me, do end up on a jury, having listened to him incorrectly give false facts about a case that they may end up on a jury on, It can be very, very dangerous because he is so very, very wrong. I'm going to leave you with a message from DA Rourke talking about the effects social media can have on their work. And then I'm going to leave you with a fact about true crime as well as a recommendation. That's something that I'm going to be introducing. If you weren't in my live last night, I'm going to introduce that into my videos. So take very, very good care. I love you lots, and I shall speak to you very, very soon.
All of them are disruptive to our process. And I don't say that crassly. When we are out, when Dave and his team are out conducting interviews of witnesses, and an individual's memory might be tainted by something inaccurate that they read on a social media site, that causes us to think, okay, how much is true of what somebody's saying? What did they see? What do they hear? Or what are they surmising or guessing because of something that they read on social media? An individual's memory might be tainted by something inaccurate that they read on a social media site.
Somewhat.
So my recommendation for a YouTube channel to watch is Lordan Arts. John Lordan is one of the most compassionate, kind, caring men I have ever known of. He is truly a lovely, lovely man, and it's all true crime on his channel. No nonsense, No speculation, just all true crime. So I highly recommend Lordan Arts. And now for a true crime fact. Did you know that despite being one of the most prolific serial killers, Ted Bundy actually worked on a suicide prevention hotline and saved a 3-year-old child from drowning in a swimming pool? Okay, I'm going to leave it there, guys. I love you lots. Take very good care and stay safe. Bye-bye.